Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a classic tale of office politics, some high-tech mishaps, and a dash of poetic justice. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. I demand you return this coffee-covered laptop for a free warranty repair. Back years ago, when I was working in the computer science department at a state university in a department full of wonderful people, we had one rude and surly professor. He was the kind of guy that had a PhD in computer science but insisted on printing out his emails before reading them. My boss at the time, who was also the hero of the submitting 200 tickets to university computing story, was respectful to Prof, but didn't take crap off of him. So naturally, when Prof wanted to yell and badger at someone, he came to me. I was the junior sysadmin, PFY, at the time. This particular incident occurred about a week after he'd used some grant money to buy the fanciest, most expensive laptop in the department. Prof: "This laptop is broken. I demand that you fix it immediately." Me: "Looks like you spilled coffee all over the keyboard." Prof, yelling: "That is a ridiculous accusation. I resent that. I never drink coffee near the laptop. I'm telling your boss about how rude you were." I wasn't super worried. Boss knew this guy and how often his printed out emails had coffee stains on them. Me: "And cream, it would seem?" Prof escalates to boss in my presence. Prof: "And so I demand you fix it immediately." Boss: "It doesn't even power up. We can't fix that. It'll have to go back to Gateway." Prof: "It's under warranty. Make them fix it." Boss lets him dig the hole nice and deep. Boss: "Warranty won't cover a coffee spill." Prof: "It wasn't a coffee spill. I demand a warranty repair immediately, and we won't pay 1 cent for it." Exit Prof. Now I'm green and keen PFY. What would Lassie do now? Me: "What on earth do we do here?" Boss: "Ship it in for a warranty repair like he asked." Me: "But won't they just reject it?" Boss: "Of course." Me: "But..." Oh. Boss: "And make sure to document for them that we refuse to pay even 1 cent for repair, just as Prof said." And so begins my entitlement. Off goes the laptop. Prof stops by every day asking if the laptop's back, if we've heard anything, etc. He's very anxious to have it back. Finally, we get a package back from Gateway. I was about to open it, but boss says no. He calls up Prof to tell him his laptop is back. Prof, of course, rushes over immediately. Prof: "So it's back. Does it work?" Boss: "Here it is. We haven't opened it yet." Prof opens the box. There's the laptop with a repair order on top reading, "Warranty claim denied. Rejection reason, system board damaged by dried brown and white liquid and smells of burnt coffee." It also, to add insult to injury, included a bill for the return shipping fee. Prof stood there staring. He literally got red in the face. He yelled some more. Boss and I just sat there, trying hard not to grin. Finally, Prof: "Well, how do I get it fixed then?" Boss: "Pay for the repair." Prof: "Oh, all right then, send it back. But it wasn't coffee." This is my favorite kind of story, when the "I told you so" hangs in the air like a thick fog. You don't even need to say it. And our second story. Sister-in-law decides to strand my son at work. A little background. My sister-in-law is 41 years old and a single mom. Due to her poor judgment in her divorce from her husband, she's back to living in our hometown with her parents instead of the state she and her ex-husband were living in when they separated and then divorced. Their parenting relationship is absolutely non-existent, and former brother-in-law struggles to get her to even let him speak to his son on the phone. She's also currently unemployed and refuses to get a job to help her parents out with expenses of having her and her son living with them. Father-in-law's retired, mother-in-law is about to retire, so they're on a fixed income. My oldest son, 23, is also currently living within their house. Previous living arrangements did not work out, and he didn't want to move back in with my husband and I, but he's employed and pays them from their agreed-upon rent to cover his living with them. This is a tenuous arrangement at best, as sister-in-law and mother-in-law have a contentious relationship, and my son and sister-in-law do not get along well at all. Now for the story. One evening, my son was at work. He was using mother-in-law's vehicle as his had broken down on day 3 of his grandparents' vacation, and mother-in-law had given her permission for him to use the car so he could use it to and from work without any issues. Public transportation sucks in our city, especially if someone's working until the wee hours of the morning, and it was tentatively agreed that my son and sister-in-law would share the vehicle since sister-in-law hasn't bothered to maintain car insurance or her vehicle registration on her own car, and mother-in-law and father-in-law were on a 2-week road trip with their other vehicle. He drove to work as usual, and when he was on his break 4 hours later, he went to go to the car and get something that he had left in it, only to discover the car was gone. Since he's not allowed to have his phone while he's working, he never received the text that sister-in-law sent him an hour after he clocked in, saying that she was going to take the car to run errands. Once he checked his phone and saw the message, he called sister-in-law and asked her to pick him up at work. Sister-in-law told him that she had no intention of picking him up from work since he had stranded her at home with no vehicle and that he could walk. My son called me immediately after he'd hung up on her in tears. By the time he got out of work, it would be around 1 in the morning, and he didn't think he could make the walk since his neuropathy had been flaring up, and he would have difficulty working once he finished his shift. So I told him I'd be there by the time he got out and related the story to my husband, who was very angry at this stunt, the latest in a long line of them. Once I got my son back home, I saw my sister-in-law sitting on the couch watching TV and not folding the massive pile of clothes next to her. When she asked me what I was doing there, I very nearly punched her, but chose the less violent path and told her I was bringing my son home from work. Then I asked her if she managed to get all of her errands out of the way. She looked confused for a moment and then said she hadn't needed to run errands. She just wanted to go hang out with her friends for a while. She tried to say that she was only joking about making my son walk 7 miles in the middle of the night with neuropathy pains, but I cut her off and told her that she was a selfish, lazy bee who had no business hanging out with her friends since she was unemployed by choice and essentially letting her parents support her. All she could do was stare at me with a dumbfounded expression on her face. I'm sad to say that she's not changed one little bit since, according to my mother-in-law. I hope that my mother-in-law sees the light soon and kicks her mooching butt out the door. Edit. My sister-in-law took an Uber to my son's workplace to get the car. I was so wrapped up in the storytelling that I forgot to include that detail. I'd have deleted or not looked at the text message and called the police to report the car stolen. Then I'd ring mother-in-law and tell her I was going to take the car and leave it at a friend's house so it didn't go missing again. And our last story. Someone parked a camper trailer on my land. I, 25-year-old male, and my fiancée, 23-year-old female, just moved into our first home, and behind our house on our property, our neighbor has his camper parked completely on our land, and as well as a trailer home. We live on the eastern coast of Canada. The previous homeowners tried but weren't able to get the neighbor, who from now on I'll refer to as Mark, to remove it from the property. Mark owns 2 other homes, his main home being 2 hours away. We've lived here for almost 6 months, and we haven't seen him yet. From what we've been told is that Mark is very violent and has a tendency to scream, yell, and occasionally get physical whenever you confront him about removing his camper and trailer home from the property. He's also extremely hard to get in contact with. As the new homeowners, we don't want this drama to continue, and we want it off before we can claim squatters' rights, since it also takes up 90% of our backyard, which we paid a lot for this land. So what can we do legally to remove his camper and trailer home from our property ASAP? I'd also like to note that he also has a shed as well as part of his driveway on our land as well, which is another thing we have to deal with, but that's a slower process. But advice on that would be appreciated greatly. Edit 1. My fiancée originally bought this home from her grandmother before COVID happened. The camper and mobile home were on the land before she bought it. This was also before we meet, and at the same time, she was very non-confrontational, and she was also around 18 or 19 years old at the time, so going up against a 40-plus-year-old man who likes to get in your face and yell at you wasn't really something she wanted to do since she's small. She later moved out of the home, and it became a rental property for a few years until we meet, got engaged, moved around for a while, and then finally decided to settle down back in this house. Now that we both want to start a family in this house, it's now being taken more serious, and we want it off our land. We do want to contact a lawyer, but money's tight since we're also in the process of doing needed renovations since it's an old home, and the tenants who rented it here did a very bad job with upkeep of the home and surrounding land. I did contact our local government's legal aid today and sent them an email going into detail about the situation we have on our hands. My hope is that this will start the process, or at least they'll be able to refer me to someone who can help us without needing to dump loads of money on a lawyer. I didn't even think about seeing if it was possible to claim his property that he abandoned. Also, if it gives you a better idea of how much land Mark is occupying with his garbage, the land is around 4 to 5 times the size of the house. That's just the backyard. And we only just enough room behind our home to park 2 vehicles, one in front of the other. That's at least what's usable to us. Update. The legal aid office responded promptly, and we were referred to a lawyer who specializes in property disputes. After explaining our situation to the lawyer, they advised us to collect as much evidence as we can. What we did next is we sent a formal letter to Mark's last known address stating that he must remove all his belongings from our property within 30 days or face legal action. The lawyer also suggested posting a copy of the letter on the camper itself in case Mark visits the property sporadically. To our surprise, Mark showed up a week later, furious about the letter. He yelled and made threats, but we stayed calm and reiterated our request for him to remove his belongings. We informed him that this was our property, backed by the survey and property records, and he had no legal right to use it. Mark blustered, but ultimately realized we were serious. Over the next few weeks, he slowly moved his camper, trailer home, and other items off our land. It wasn't easy, and he made the process as difficult as possible, but we managed to get him to comply without any physical altercations. Finally, with our backyard cleared, we could start using the space as we intended. We set up a beautiful garden and a play area for our future children. It was a hard-fought victory, but it was worth it to reclaim our property and establish boundaries. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.